You know, that was such a strange game, and this was just my take as I took it in, that I never thought that the Titans were going to lose that game, and then they did. Isn't that weird?
I know how you feel. Yeah, that was. But when the 80-yard run happened, that was when or I should say the 68-yard run, the 90-yard drive happened. I became very fearful because when things like that start to happen, teams gain life, and the Titans had 3 opportunities to make it a 3-score game, which had they made it a 3-score game, I don't think it's a loss because I don't think the Giants would have been as patient as they would have been. And listen, I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be out there for the whole game if he keeps dropping back like he did in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was taking some shots. And the fact that they were only down 13-0, and so they came out and they said, we're going to run the ball. And as sure as they did it, they pop off, 4 runs for 90 yards. They're right back in the game. The Titans go all out to stop the run, and Shepard gets behind them, and it's a 65-yard touchdown. And then all of a sudden the game's tied at 13. And yet it looked like the Titans were still going to do enough to get through. But you have to give the Giants credit. Nice drive, nice 2-point conversion, enough of a stop on defense because of the missed field goal. And they won the ball game. I mean, there's no way to say it any other way. You can't say they were given the game or they got lucky that's just not true. They won the football game, and you have to tip your hat, and yet you still feel like you let one get away.
Yeah, I think it was that opening drive of the second half, Mike. That's where the Titans could have gone up 20-0 and been fine, I think.
I mean, they had the ball at the 47-yard line of the Giants with a 2nd and 4 on the last drive of the first half, and Phillips unfortunately dropped a pass.
Yeah.
And then the third down pass was errant, and they ended up having to punt there. But they're on the move there, and they got stopped at the 5-yard line and had to kick the field goal to make it 13-0 when they could have made it 17-0. In other words, a 3-score game changes the calculus because at that point, if you're the Giants, if it's 17-0 or 20-0, you're starting to think we're not going to have that many more possessions. We've got to go. And, that the 2-score thing and the fact that they scored so quickly in the second half, suddenly they're able to do the math and feel really good about it.
You know what, Mike? I'm gonna say this, man. That even going into the second half, I predicted this game to end at 27-13, and I thought that was fair with what was going on. You get. I just need to know this, man, Mike. From a different point of view, was this Christian Fulton's worst game you've seen him play, as far as him being sound technically, like fundamentally sound during the game?
Well, I don't know. Honestly, Ron, I don't know what the coverage situation was on that particular play. So I don't know if he thought he had help. I don't know if he just peeked in the backfield. So I really can't say. And honestly, too, that was just, one play. I didn't notice him being out of position on a lot of other plays. So I think for me, that would probably be going a little too far based on what I know. I mean, it was bad on somebody giving up the 65-yard touchdown. I mean, that should not have been. I mean, there shouldn't have been. It's not like we don't know who Shepard is. I mean, he's caught 57 or more passes 5 straight years. So that was not a big shocker that he was out there. And somehow, some way, the Titans lost him.
Hey, you know what, Mike? Maybe that is unfair to say his worst game being played, but I felt like coming out in the second half, this defense was undisciplined as a unit.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, and that leads to exactly what it was. I think you saw Candy and Daniel Jones dropping back. Let's go get him. He's when we sack him, he's fumbling the ball. Like we can get the ball out of his hands and get something good going. So I felt like everybody kind of leached on to that instead of just being defensively sound in their game in the
Well,
second
they
half.
weren't playing gaps or angles
Right.
properly, obviously, in the run game. They didn't tackle well.
Mm-hmm.
And, to lose a guy for a 65-yard touchdown in a situation like that,
Yeah.
where if you make them – I mean, they're only 2 of 10 on third downs.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're making them drive the football, that's a totally different situation, obviously. I mean, just not good. No other way to put it.
Yeah, how concerned should we be about the run game defense? Because the Titans gave up one 100-yard rusher all of last season, had not given up a 100-yard rusher in 12 games, and then 164. Oh.
Well, I mean, that was to Barkley. You know, they did some good things overall in the run game, did the Giants. I think you're concerned, but I don't think it's the end of the world. Early last season, while Hooker was hurt, they were giving up all kinds of long passes, and that was just seeming to kill them, and they got that under control. It's a long year, and you have to take everything with a grain of salt. But do I think you're concerned after giving up, what was it, 236 total? Yeah, sure you are. I mean, you certainly don't expect that to happen because you knew it was coming. It was not a surprise that you knew that stuff was going to happen, and you knew you were facing Barkley. So, I mean, just hard to take in a lot of different ways, and much to be discussed, I'm sure.
Well, Mike, on the other side of the ball, Todd Downing is trending on Twitter, and of course, Titans fans were unhappy with play calling and predictability last year, and that certainly, I guess, reared its ugly head all across social media, as far as the play calling and just personnel selection, all of that with Todd Downing. What is your thought on the predictability of this offense in Week 1?
Well, you're dealing with a couple things. You're dealing with a defensive coordinator who attacks.
Yeah.
You're playing a new right tackle who's a rookie in his first game against a complex defense. You're probably going to have tight ends help with the blocking some in those situations.
Which is why we saw Swaim 44 snaps, right?
And that's it. Yeah, that's it, because you're gonna make sure that things are taken care of, because against that defense, if you make a big mistake, which they didn't, then you give yourself a chance. And by not taking sacks, the only sack was a rollout where Tannehill got back to the line of scrimmage, and it was deemed a sack. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, he didn't get pounded. Mm-mm. So they kept him upright. I mean, my bigger problems – and I understand when you lose there's always frustration. My bigger problems, drop passes and penalties. If you catch the ball, you put yourself in a position where you're converting a couple more third downs and you're keeping some drives alive. And, you're going to play that game a little differently too, because you're against an opponent that is probably not going to score 40 points. Are you going to utilize personnel differently against Buffalo? Probably so, because they can score 40 points.
Yeah.
That bunch yesterday averaged 15 points a game last year. Mm-hmm. And it took all they had to get to 21. I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying you're just trying to win the football game is what you're trying to do in those situations. So I get it, And do you want to get it to Woods more? Do you want to get it to Traylon more? Yeah, I mean, you do. And there are certainly things that I'm sure Downing and everybody wishes they had back, but I had them with 4 drops, and quite honestly, if they catch the 4 passes, there are 2 first downs in there.
Yep.
There's a shot that Tannehill is over 300 yards passing. I thought Tannehill had a pretty nice day overall.
Yeah,
Agreed.
we all agree with that. Yeah,
He did fine. I mean, I thought he
put his team
final drive.
He put his team in position to win the game.
They put his team in position to win the game, and he didn't make big mistakes. And he changed some calls at certain times. And again, there were some positive things from the standpoint that you could have, if you make a big mistake against Wink Martindale's defense, and we said it all last week, we talked about it all last week. If you make a big mistake, they're not only hitting your quarterback, they're going the other way with one. And you're trying, especially once you got the lead, because there was somebody who said, should they have gone on 4th down and 4 at the 5 when it was 10-0? I'm like, nope. You take the points. You just keep playing the game because you're in command. Sure, you'd like to be 17-0, but 13-0 is better than 10-0. You just keep playing the game. And that was the way that game was going. It looked like the defense was in command. And so the offense's big job, once they got a solid lead, was to not make a big mistake. Well, then all of a sudden what happens, in 6 minutes and 12 seconds, the lead's gone. And now you're playing a different game. And sure enough, the first drive after the game was tied, they took it right down the field and scored.
Yeah.
It's a hard one to really explain in so many different ways because there were enough things that you could have done to win the ball game. You just didn't do it.
You know what, Mike, to your point about the first downs, if you catch those balls, I mean, it's totally different ball game, at least by time of possession and what you can run next. My thing is, what makes me scratch my head, who were you throwing to on those third downs? That's the thing that makes me, like, I'm looking for Hooper. I'm looking for Woods. I'm looking for Traylon Burks.
The two I'm thinking of, Phillips was actually a second down pass right at the end of the first half. And if he catches it, you're in a first down position right there. And then the third down pass
inside the 40.
Yeah. And so then you keep that drive going. You're probably going to keep the ball the rest of the half. And at the very least, you're going to have a shot at a long field goal, if not more.
Yeah.
The other one I was thinking of was Hilliard in the flat.
3rd and 2.
He's going to catch that pass and probably turn down the field and get enough for the first down.
Yep.
So I didn't think those were bad decisions. Now some of them probably were not perfect. And listen, I'm not saying Tannehill deserves an A+ either. I'm just saying I thought he played a good game. He played enough of a game for this team to win. I mean, you get that kind of effort out of him, and you're going to have a chance to win. That's taking care of the ball and making good decisions. That's winning football. He made a couple of excellent throws, too. The throw to Phillips at the end was fantastic.
Oh, so good.
Dropped it in the bucket.
Yep. And, well, honestly, if that field goal's made, then Giants fans are talking about if this. So
right.
It's the beauty of sports, I guess.
Well, and it's like some of my Tennessee fan friends who were talking last night. They go, well, that Pittsburgh game looks a lot better after watching, what happened to some NFL teams today. Because everybody was mad Saturday night for how the team played, but they still won. When you win, it rubs off a lot of ugly, and you could, and now all of a sudden you're going back and fixing mistakes, and you have correctable errors and things like that. Now what you're talking about is run defense, and you're saying, whoa. And you're talking about tackling, and you're saying, whoa, and 7 penalties in the second half. And, you can't do that in Buffalo and have a chance.
Right. 10-point underdog.
Because the whole thing, the Giants, give them credit, tip your hat. I don't think we're going to see them in Super Bowl 57, The Buffalo Bills are a better team. We may see them in Super Bowl 57. And so it's no secret the Titans are going to have to play much better football in a lot of the fundamental areas.
Great stuff, Mike. Always appreciate the perspective, my friend. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right, Mike Keith, the